Yeah, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Women's Wisdom Lounge. My name is Brenda Rogers, and I am a naturopath. Well, a naturopath with a difference. So I'll talk about that another day. Today, I'm talking with emotional intelligence and parenting coach, Stephanie Pinto, and we're going to have a chat about getting to know each other. So I'll get you to introduce yourself a little bit in a minute, Stephanie. But first of all, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And secondly, what's your favourite food?
Ooh, favorite food. I do have a sweet tooth. However, I've been overcoming that just so that I have a more healthy balanced diet. But, if I had to just pick one thing that I will probably always love, it's so boring, but it's chocolate.
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
It's a cure for all ills, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let's start with, you've got a very impressive CV and a passion for parenting. And so just give us a little bit of a brief history, how did you get to be where you are right now?
Yeah, I'll put it into a nutshell because I know we were talking before, and I said I'll try not to waffle, which I don't do, but I know I do get really passionate, like you said. I'm really passionate about parenting, and my kids are 4 and 7, so they're still little. I'm trying to be well aware that they're little and that we have many years with them. But I guess in a way, I sort of fell into doing this work. I was a speech pathologist for 10 years and I worked with kids and families and I loved that. But in the end, I did burn out. It was a really challenging and demanding but beautiful profession, I think. And the thing I realized, though, towards the end was that a lot of parents were really struggling, not just with how to help their kids' communication and language skills and stuff like that, but how do we discipline our kids? How do we deal with these big, strong, challenging behaviors? And they have such big emotions, even older kids and teenagers and things, big, strong emotions. We can't control them and we don't know why they're acting like this. And so I kind of really saw a bit of a need there. And at the same time, I had just discovered emotional intelligence, was reading books and loving it and watching stuff online. And I thought, oh my goodness, why aren't we doing this? Emotional intelligence, knowing about our emotions and dealing with emotions and learning how to navigate through them smoothly rather than letting them take over and blow up. Why aren't we doing this for kids? Kids of all ages in families and things like that. So,
and do you think that we assume that they'll get it from the parents, but the parents sometimes don't have it either? Is that kind of the issue?
I love how you phrased that. Is this issue? I do find that a lot of parents come to me looking for support because their kids are loud, disruptive, challenging, noisy, rude, and things like that. And a much smaller portion of parents come to me and say, I need help. I'm not being the parent I want to be, or I need to overcome my triggers. I don't know how to deal with emotions, or emotions for me growing up were bad, naughty, silly to be put away or dealt with in my room. And like my kids now have these giant emotions and some behaviors coming with it, and I don't know how to deal with it. So I need tools and I need to unlearn and do some learning. And it's interesting.
Oh, they're probably your ideal clients, those ones.
Yes, I do like those ones because they're already aware, have that some level of self-awareness of, whoa, there are things that I could be doing differently. Maybe there are some things I'm doing that are inadvertently adding fuel to the fire or not helping the situation, and things like that. So, yeah.
Well, I know personally, looking back, myself in my 30s and 40s, I wasn't, I'd have tanties and I'd do the silent treatment with my partners and I just wasn't, I've come a long way, let's put it that way. So you must be exhibiting emotional intelligence for yourself and learning that for yourself so that you can even discuss it with people. So what brought you on that journey? What
Mm.
inspired you to grow up? Let's call it that.
Mm. This is something that I've only just really the last year or so been comfortable to talk about and share, because I realize the impact it has on people. And obviously a lot of the learning and reflecting I've done over the years is that when I was a kid, I had a beautiful family. You know, we had we had things, we were able to go to university, you know, a really great childhood. However, despite all of that, for some collection of reasons and things like that, I developed a really, really strong anxiety, which meant when I got nervous or overwhelmed or stressed or shy or whatever it is, instead of getting the like heart racing and the sweaty palms and being very nervous, I would actually faint. And my body's fight, flight, freeze response was to take me out of the situation and take me out because it was too much. I couldn't cope with those emotions. I couldn't cope with the threat, that sense of danger, threat that my nervous system was picking up. So in hindsight, I realize why. I mean, this is also why it's so important to be at peace with and okay with and understand your own emotions, because we can't, as parents and as adults generally, we can't give what we don't have. Like we can't teach, or we can't create an emotionally intelligent family culture. We can't teach emotional intelligence to our kids if we don't have this ourselves, right? If we are blowing up, like you said, having tanties, and we are stonewalling, and we are, you know, having all these giant reactions and melting down ourselves, but as an adult, then how are we able to see some of these big emotions and these behaviors in our kids or our teenagers and think, whoa, you're going through something huge and that's okay. And I'm not under threat. I'm calm. I'm grounded. I can help you through it. We don't need to both end up, what's that saying? You both jump in the pool and it's a disaster.
Yeah, both drowning. Yeah. So what did you, excuse me for asking personal questions, I hope you don't mind.
No.
You know, because you know, it's a vulnerable conversation, right? It's there's a lot of shame around mental challenges, and some cultures we don't talk about it. You know, I've got one client whose husband's British and he won't talk about anything, and so she's struggling. So, you know, what opened you up? What brought you to this awareness? And you know, what's one sort of story you could share with us about, you know, an epiphany that you had, or
you know what, that I like this conversation because it is getting underneath some of the stuff that helps us really make change and grow and evolve, right?
it's beautiful.
My family is also British. We're from the UK, and my parents came out here and had kids, and so we didn't really talk about emotions much, that I remember. We weren't, you know, punished and like smacked and stuff like that. But yet there wasn't. I never felt okay to show all the range of emotions. And I have one daughter, one son, one daughter, and I had to do some learning and unlearning around accepting like rage from her. You know, when she this little cheruby face, you know, her brother will do something and she will just erupt, and the anger on her face. And I've like, you know, I coach on paradigms and beliefs and shoulds and musts and all that stuff that's sitting under the surface. And I realized, I was like, whoa, that feels like she shouldn't be like that. Like, you should be a good little girl. And boys can be angry, but not girls. Same thing with, you know, boys shouldn't cry. Girls can cry. So, you know, I think having a look at those things in ourselves, those beliefs that we were programmed into us as kids, and we thought was normal. That's what's done. That's what we all do, and we never do this. And parents, parents are the bosses kind of thing. I think having kids was just one of a few different things that sort of plopped me down onto the ground and shook me a little bit. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to find some other ways to deal with this and keep our connection and our relationship rather than going maybe, another way, which is that old style of, do what I say and kids obey. And if you don't, go to your room, time out, I don't care, da, 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 da. So.
Wow. And, you remind me that it's the mirroring around us. If we can see the interactions and the challenges with the people around us as mirrors for us, then reflecting back our own stuff, then we can think about it. So what kind of, in terms of, because I love the rage thing, right? Because once you get to menopause, which is my passion, rage comes up again, right? It's a really angry time for women, and we don't have the tools. We don't have the tools to deal with that. So what kind of tools with your daughter in particular, seeing that rage or that conditioning that you had, how did you, I suppose it can be overwhelming if you don't have something to help you deal with it. How did you deal with that?
Yeah, you know what? You hit the nail on the head. And what that made me think of is what framework we have or don't have around a lot of these emotions. Like some of us don't have the map. We, for me, we didn't talk about it. We pushed it aside and we smiled and like we became people pleasers and, don't show people that you actually don't want that or you wanted something different or you're unhappy with it. Just, so I think it is really hard to do this on your own without someone like you or me or a coach or a mentor or someone helping you kind of create that framework for yourself. Because if you don't, let's say it's around the rage and the anger and those really strong feelings, when we don't know how to deal with those because it hasn't been shown to us, we haven't had it modeled, or we had something else modeled. This is a really quick story from a dad who actually was in a couple that I coached, and he said there were 2 times ever that he saw his father cry, and one time he hid his face from his son, and he said the other time my dad quickly raced out the back into the backyard so that we didn't see, and that was the 2 times ever. And so, come to adulthood, 30s, 40s, 50s and beyond, and if we still haven't learned how to deal with those emotions and that emotions are okay, they can be uncomfortable, but they're not bad and they're not messy or fluffy or weak or wrong. And they're not, in terms of kids, they're not manipulative, they're not coercive, they're not, just our kids getting what they want. Like emotions are natural physiological reactions to what's going on either outside in our environment or within us. So, I think all of us, and I just happen to love working with the families and the kids side of it, but for all adults as well, we need to learn and do some unlearning about emotions and how to move through them, like not squash them down, not distract. I was writing an article about using distraction. I did a video as well yesterday about it, distraction for our kids. For adults, obviously I was talking about kids, sometimes we distract our kids when they're upset, and is that good or bad? But think about you as an adult. If we are feeling these, anger, sadness, fear, disappointment, any of those strong emotions, a lot of us tend to distract ourselves with our work, with our social media, with the emails. I'll just go on and send those, or with food, or this stuff, we're not at peace with and intelligent about our emotions. So there's a lot in there.
And I think that's why I end up with similar issues with my clients, but from a health perspective, because it's the too much sugar or too much chocolate or too much alcohol or whatever that is, or even just overly focusing on dieting and body image. as an avoidance strategy for the stuff that's not working in
Yeah.
our lives, that 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 can be difficult to manage. What you're just saying sounds easy, and it's not. How do you
No.
make it easier for people? How do you make it easier?
I think a whole lot of education and learning around the stuff that our parents didn't know and so didn't pass on to us. And that is the neuroscience behind emotion and behavior for ourselves and why we show up the way we do, why we deal with things the way we do, but for our kids as well, obviously. So I always say to parents, look, 20, 30 years ago, when your parents were raising you, they didn't have all this research and science and information about attachment and emotions and child development and behavior and all this stuff. They were still back in the coercion theory and the shaping behavior and all that, rewards, punishment, the stuff that we now know doesn't work. So, there's a lot of, it doesn't have to be complex and like in the depths of neuroscience, but just having an awareness of what is going on in our nervous system. I talk a lot about neuroception and how our body is unconsciously detecting cues all the time of threat versus safety. Am I okay, or am I stressed or distressed? Or, and what that does to our system. We're either regulated, calm and happy and connected and engaging socially, or we're dysregulated and we're starting to get irritated, agitated, we start blow up, we're snappy. And I see this with friends and family and parents and in-laws. And, once you have this awareness and the knowledge, it's almost like the kind of blindfolds come off and you go, oh my God, that's why she does that. And this is why I do this. And, we all have our blind spots until the point that we uncover them. But it does take getting some help, some coaching, some mentoring or some therapy, counseling, things like that to learn what we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. That's, they don't teach us stuff in school. So yeah, it's a lot.
And personal question here, because lots of families are blended families these days. And there's the step-parent challenges, with kind of third parties involved. Do you see much of that with your clients?
Yep, I do. And there's, I still come from an emotional intelligence and understanding our own emotions and behavior in our kids and things like that. I know there are differences and there are nuances in the relationships and things like that, but it all comes down to having an understanding of ourselves, self-awareness, and doing the work so that we are showing up as the best parent or spouse, partner that we can, and using emotional intelligence as like the vehicle or the modality to do that. So it all comes down to relationships and connection. And if you have a beautiful connection with a child and it's not your biological child, it doesn't matter, because connections and those bonds are what makes either the calm in the home and the flow and the connection, or the disconnection and the dysregulation.
So could you say, if I'm experiencing disconnection with someone, doesn't matter who, that they are triggering me, and I'm not handling it emotionally very well? Would that be accurate?
Possibly, yes. If there's conflict and if there's clashes, then you'll be able to, like, people will know that straight off the bat, because they'll have this sense of frustration or the anger, someone's overstepped a boundary, or they just don't get what I'm saying, or they just don't listen. I like what you said before about that mirroring, having almost like using, in a sense, the concept of other people being a mirror for us, right? So when someone is triggering me, and when someone, simply what they say or do is pushing a hot button in me and causing me to have this reaction, I mean, yes, we can always go to them and work it out and talk, but I think first off, having a look at why is that triggering me? Would someone else doing the same thing trigger me, or is it this person? What is it about them and their personality or how they're saying it? Why do I even have this button that's able to be pushed? Do you know what I mean? And looking, I kind of say, turn your eyes inward and look at where's that coming from? Why is it so intolerant to me when they say this or when they ask me to do this? Or when they don't do this, when they keep forgetting to get milk and I wake up and there's no milk and they don't get it, and what's coming up in me that's causing me to react versus respond in emotional intelligence. And I'm sure, in your work, we talk about responding versus reacting. They're very different. And looking at where that's coming from. Sometimes it is those paradigms and those beliefs we talked about, but there's a lot under there. So,
and I imagine answering those questions is best with someone else. They're not easy questions to answer, really. Where does it come from? Well, my mother did this, or my teacher did that, or they can be, takes a bit of practice to inquire, to turn those lights inside and look inside, doesn't it?
Yeah, I like that you said that. It takes practice, and it takes, again, us to have a framework of how do I do this and what does it look like and what questions should I ask myself? That's really hard to do on your own. I mean, there are books out there. There's tons on YouTube and the internet that we can now learn. Like, people are able to disseminate so much information so fast, and we can read and learn a lot. But this is what I say to the parents I work with. Reading a book or watching something on YouTube or reading an article or a blog is excellent. That can be so helpful and so beneficial. However, it doesn't give you that ability to connect with the author, let's say, and say, oh, I get it. So when my partner does this, then why does that come up for me? Because he says it this way. Or you don't have that connection to ask questions, to troubleshoot, to relate it to your own specific family, like an individualized, this is what's coming up for me. And you don't have that momentum that you need to build, to create some kind of sustainable change. You know what I mean? So I think, having a coach or a mentor or a therapist allows you to continue to learn and implement and make it your new way of being. This is just what I do. When it blows up, I go, oh, that hit a button for me. Let me go and work through that. Let me go and journal or reflect on, he's done that a couple of times and I have this big reaction. What is coming up for me? Because this is like a block here. I feel like blowing up and saying, don't you make me like that. But instead I go, ooh, there's something there. So
I'm just going to ask our audience to pop any questions that they have in the chat. But as they are doing that, one of the things that you reminded me of is how working with somebody gives you accountability, because I find myself, I'll kind of follow a thread. Oh, I'm reacting to that. But then I might not take it further and further and further and get to the bottom of it. And the other thing that I notice is how present and not even mindful, it's beyond mindfulness, in my opinion, how present you have to be to feel emotions. And that takes practice as well. And a therapist or a partner can help you do that too.
Yeah. It is really so much easier to do it with someone who has either been there before and been where you have been to guide you through. You need that guide, but also the accountability, because our brains don't like stuff that's uncomfortable. We don't like delving into our shadows or the stuff, our habits, our patterns of behavior, and the stuff that we've been doing for so long that actually really isn't serving us. And there's a beautiful quote that I hope I don't stuff up, but it's about that which we most want to find is where we least want to look. I think I've said that mostly right.
Oh yeah.
I think it was Carl Jung, maybe. So the stuff that we want to have in our life, like the joy with our partner or our husband or wife, spouse, with our kids as well, and the smooth, like flowing, stress-free life. That's what we want. We just want to have a happy family and love our work and things like that. Really simple. But in order to have that, we do have to look at those deeper, darker parts of us that are blocking us or are causing us to react and get into conflict and things like that, and have those breakdowns. We've got to have the strength, and it's not easy, to go there and do some learning and some unlearning and undoing. And having someone help you do that is just a whole lot easier.
I could talk about this for hours. I'm just looking at some of the comments, and people are going, thumbs up, yay, great, such a powerful conversation, need to do this, but there's no questions coming through. So what we might do is I might ask you, because it just keeps going, right? There's so much more. But for those who are interested in following up with you or in learning more, what are the next steps that you can suggest?
Yep, awesome. Probably one of the easier ways to connect with me is just through my website, which is stephaniepinto.com. There's a space where you can put a form in that will come through to me or my team, and we can either organize a free half-hour chat on Zoom if you want to chat about things and get some support and ideas of where to go. The other couple of spaces that I'm mostly spending my time in is my Facebook group, which is called Let's Raise Emotionally Intelligent Kids, and then over on Instagram as well, posting just little videos and tips and strategies and stuff like that. So we can put my links maybe in here after, so you guys can jump in.
Yeah, we can do that in the chat afterwards. All right, so let me ask you our wrap-up question. I have to think about it. What am I going to say?
Oh, I'm not prepared.
I know. It's I'm trying to think what I want to know plus what our audience might want to know. So, and then I'm gone into my head, and no longer emotionally intelligent, right? So I'd like to know, something that, could you share something else your kids have taught you, in the realm of emotional intelligence? I love that you brought up rage in your daughter and crying in your son. That's, that it brings up that whole cultural conditioning concept, right? But yeah, just something. Share us a story of something you learned from one or the other.
Well, I have two things, but I want to just pick one of them. When you were talking about, rage from Eve and the tears and the hurt feelings with Arthur. As I said, my whole family is English. My husband's family is Portuguese. So they are very loud. They say what they think. Emotions are sometimes a little bit silly and a bit childish and something to be quickly moved on from sometimes. And I've had to, I think this comes in a little bit under my integrity, which is an emotional intelligence competency, that there's 26 individual competencies within the whole umbrella of emotional intelligence. One is one is integrity, but also knowing my boundaries and being able to have those confidently and hold them with conviction, which is something I am still learning about. Like, we're all human, and I don't think we ever stop learning. And being able to know that it is okay for my daughter to have these massive emotions and the noise that comes with it, or the shouting or the grunts, or, that really primal when she loses it, and she becomes emotionally hijacked. But also for my son, when he is really upset about something that maybe we or others think is a small thing, not a big deal. And the tears and the big physiological reaction. I am really still learning. I think they're teaching me how to stand in my truth and speak up, with authenticity when I want to say that is okay that you are feeling like this, and that is okay, and I get it that you are so upset with me because I won't let you have a third cookie or something, and it's okay to feel angry, and you can let that out. I won't let you hit me or hurt your brother or whatever, like the boundary side, but just coming from that space of, I know this is okay. I want to teach you that do not be afraid of your emotions, or don't squash them down. I'm going to help you learn how to deal with them, because when you are a teenager or in your 20s or 30s or beyond, you're going to have big emotions. You're going to lose that job offer, or you're going to botch the project, or you're something might happen in your marriage. I want you to know, I'm feeling something huge. I do not like it. Like, this feels terrible, but I'm not going to go and punch a hole in the wall, or I'm not going to go and grab the wine. Emotional intelligence is a protective factor against anxiety, depression, using drugs and alcohol. There's a lot of research, scientific research around that, tons. So they're teaching me in a big nutshell.
Yeah.
I might waffle on. They're teaching me a lot of that stuff, and it's a learning curve.
Well, I love your commitment. Love your your willingness to be the teacher and the student with your kids and with your clients, and that you're inspiring others to do the same. So thank you so much. There is a question, but I might get you to answer it in the chat afterwards. I know you've got clients to get to. And lovely to chat with you, Stephanie. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on in your space.
I will. And thank you. And I'm just going to sign off now. So bye-bye, everyone. Don't go anywhere, Stephanie.